Welcome back, friends. This is Greg, the Mad Scientist Show, and yes, this is another edition of the 360 Sports Network podcast on the non-VCS, just the regular bowl series itself. And with me tonight is our college bowl expert, James Dotson. Mr. Dotson, how goes it out there?
It's college football season. It's bowl week, which somehow lasts about 3 weeks, but that's something we're not even going to worry about. It's the best time of the year. Lots of fun, lots of presents around the Christmas tree, but most importantly, to watch those college bowl games.
You know what? These games are really, really fun to watch because not only are we watching future NFL stars in their prime playing for their colleges, but we're actually watching some very intriguing corporate culture companies battling it out for the corporate right. I mean, where else can you find the Gildan, New Mexico Bowl duking it out? Or the teams duking it out over the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, or the best one, though, is the San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl. You know, maybe I'm a little old here, Dotson, but I remember it was just the plain old Poinsettia Bowl, and nobody cared about it.
And I think most people think of it just as the Poinsettia Bowl. But you know what? That makes it fun. I like getting sponsors' names out there. They like getting out there. And in terms of the games themselves, I like being able to watch some of these teams that you don't normally get to see. I don't see Brigham Young play San Diego State. I don't see those two teams. I don't see Ball State in Central Florida. So it's those sort of games that I really get intrigued by just because I can see something completely new. And when it comes to draft time, you're going to see some names pop up and like, oh yeah, I saw him play in the New Orleans Bowl. So there's lots of good that comes from this.
Oh, yes. And, you know, how many people here can vouch that they actually saw Ben Roethlisberger play in the GMAC Bowl whenever he was with Miami of Ohio? And
Exactly right there. You never know who could come out of one of these lower schools' so-called lower bowl games. There's 35 of them. We want to break down as many of them as we can. And we'll talk about the BCS in a future podcast, but let's get right into some of these starter bowls for us for this bowl season.
Yes, the hors d'oeuvres.
Well said. Now, two bowl games are already in the books. The Gildan, New Mexico Bowl featured the two best running backs in the nation when Nevada and Arizona played off, and Arizona scored 2 touchdowns in the last 40 seconds to beat Nevada 49-48. That was an unbelievable game. You got to see Kadeem Carey for Arizona. You got to see Stephon Williams for Nevada. A fun game to watch. You would not know those two names except for watching this New Mexico Bowl. So I thought that was an absolute great way to start the season.
Oh yeah, it was a fun game to watch, especially the way Arizona pulled it out in the end. It's like wow.
And then the other game that was already taking place, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, very tight game the whole way through, but then Utah State pulled away late, ended up beating Toledo 41-15. So the WAC champions finished the year 11-2, and they just had too much offense in the end. They just wore them down by the end of the game. So now it's time to move on for some predictions and some previews of our own for the future bowls.
Well, I guess the third bowl of contention that we're looking at is the San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl, where it's featuring Brigham Young versus SDSU, which is San Diego State University. The defense has a tendency to win championships, so with that philosophy in mind, I think I'm going to be looking at San Diego State in this one. What do you think there, Dotson?
Oh, I'll tell you what, San Diego State, I mean, they get so many rushing yards, 229 rushing yards per game. They're really going to be a tough team to defend, but I'll tell you what, Brigham Young has played in some big games, and they've had some great defensive stands. They're 5th in the country, actually, averaging less than 15 points allowed per game. The thing that you're looking at, though, home field advantage possibly for San Diego State. They're playing in San Diego. That's a big issue with me with some of these bowl games essentially are getting home field advantage. BYU is the favorite. I think I'm going to go with them because of their amazing wide receiver, Cody Hoffman. He's got 90 catches, 11 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards. I think he'll make a game-changing play late, and BYU will win by a touchdown.
Well, let's agree to disagree on that one.
Hey, that's the way to start. And, hey, we never know what's going to happen. It's bowl season.
Mm-hmm. Coming up next, we got the Beef O'Brady Bowl. Have you ever eaten at Beef O'Brady?
I have not, and I'm not sure I care to.
Yes. Anyway, Beef O'Brady Bowl, St. Petersburg, Central Florida versus Ball State. Ball State is a MAC school, and of course, Conference USA is Central Florida. Ball State has a tendency to outscore their opponents, ranked 103rd in scoring defense, 34.7 points per game. It's going to be an interesting game there. I'm going to go with Ball State on this one.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick there. I think that if they had gotten say a BCS conference opponent, they may have been in trouble, but I think their tendency of trying to outscore opponents will work well. Central Florida tries to keep a low-scoring game because their offense really isn't that great. So the contrasting styles here will be the storyline, but I think Ball State's offense will counteract any sort of advantage the defense of Central Florida has. I'm going to go with Ball State in this one.
Okay, next one on the list, we have the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. Well, that's interesting. That's our competition there. I mean, we should have an R&J Trucking Slag Bowl. But, that's another story for another day. Anyway.
Yeah, maybe down the road. No, in the New Orleans Bowl, another case, 3 in a row now, that we might have a little bit of home field advantage. Louisiana Lafayette plays right down the line, right down the road, I should say, in the Superdome. And I'll tell you what, the Raging Cajuns, they finally are back in bowl season. They made it last year, won in the last minute. They did it again. With each team averaging over 250 passing yards, it's going to look like the New Orleans Saints are playing down there in the Super Bowl. So I see a high-scoring game. Both defenses are pretty weak, and I'm going to go with the quote-unquote home field advantage and go with Louisiana Lafayette.
You know what? Once again, I would have to agree with you on that because something like this, the home team definitely has a distinct advantage, and especially inside that Superdome. I see Louisiana Lafayette team basically taking the R&L Carrier Bowl on this one. Okay, the Mako Bowl. Mako Bowl, Las Vegas. It's played in Las Vegas between Washington out of the Pac-12. They're 7-5, 5-4 in the Pac-12 play, and number 19, Boise State. Boy, Boise State has really, really gone downhill.
Well, you would think that, but, I mean, you got to think that they lost their opening game to Michigan State. They lost one other game in the course of the season. They're still a top 20 BCS school, and honestly, if it wasn't for Northern Illinois, we could be talking about Boise State in a BCS game here. So I got to go with Boise State. Huskies' defense for Washington has been pretty bad this year, and I think that when you give Boise State coach Peterson, when you give him that much time to prepare, you're going to win 9 times out of 10. I'm going to take Boise in this one.
See, this is what I don't understand here, Dotson. We have a team that's ranked number 19 in the country. They're 10-2. They've won 10 games, lost 2. Granted, they lost 2 major ones, but still, they're number 19 in the country, and they're playing in the Mako Bowl?
It's all about the conference alignment and contractual obligations. The Mountain West Conference, they have certain affiliations. One of them is with the Las Vegas Bowl. So because of that, Boise State ended up getting slotted here. A big part of that used to be, too, that there were other bowls that you actually were not allowed to play on your home field. It used to be Boise State couldn't play like in what is now called the Idaho Potato Bowl for the same reason. So I think it's because of the contractual obligations. You got a low-end Pac-12 team playing against one of the top Mountain West Conference teams. It's a sad story, but that's just the way it has to be.
You know, this is just a sad case of the NCAA obfuscating the rules and basically having a team that's worthy of a much bigger bowl relegated to a bowl that is pretty much meaningless in my book. Boise State's going to take this one, I think, though.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the issue, too, is, I mean, this could be a big bowl, Las Vegas Bowl, but we determine what a bowl is big or not big based on the time of the year, and when this bowl is being played on December 22nd, yeah, not exactly considered a great bowl.
Let's move along here. We got the Sheridan Hawaii Bowl, where we've got Fresno State 9-3, 7-1 in the Mountain West Conference versus Southern Methodist 6-6, 5-3 in Conference USA. And, of course, the Sheridan Hawaii Bowl is played out in Honolulu. That's a beautiful stadium out there. If you've ever taken a trip out there, you definitely need to set foot on the turf out there at Aloha Stadium.
It's a beautiful stadium, beautiful place. It is paradise out there, I can tell you that for sure. We're going to want to say Melikamikimaka. It's going to be Christmas Eve, and you're going to be watching an absolute great game. Fresno State's quarterback, he's a junior, Derek Carr, and if that name sounds familiar, he is the younger brother of former NFL quarterback, well, still current NFL quarterback, I should say, David Carr. He threw for 3,700 yards, 36 touchdowns this year. Fresno State is a high-scoring team, and supposedly he's coming back for his senior year. So we actually could be looking at someone who might make a potential run at maybe the Davey O'Brien Trophy. And he's got a great wide receiver. He's actually a freshman, Devontae Adams, who's 14th in the country, almost 100 receiving yards per game. So I don't know if the Mustangs can keep up with that sort of competition. I think Fresno wins, and they win big out there in Hawaii.
Yeah, but you know what? You got June Jones out there who's no slouch of a coach, and he'll know how to coach against this type of offense. It's going to be interesting, though. But once again, though, you know what? I'm going to go with Southern Methodist on this one.
Oh, wow, Southern Methodist. You know what? Here's why I think that is a very clever upset possibility. Their quarterback, you may have heard of him before, Garrett Gilbert.
Mm-hmm.
He played quarterback for Texas in the national championship game a couple years ago when Colt McCoy went out with an injury, and he went out there and threw for over 200 yards. He's now transferred to Southern Methodist. He actually could be the game changer here.
Yeah, looking at that and looking at the veteran coach, June Jones, who's coaching Southern Methodist right now, I really think that there could be an upset in the making. It's going to be a high-scoring affair, no doubt about it. It's going to be a fun one to watch over Christmas.
Hey, exactly. In high-scoring affair, anybody can win. Let's move forward to the Little Caesars Bowl. Western Kentucky, 7-5 from the Sun Belt Conference, against Central Michigan, 6-6. This would again seem like a less than interesting bowl, what most people would say, but there are a couple of big possibilities out of this one too. I mean, Bobby Petrino is going to be coming to the Hilltoppers next year. We won't see him, but he's going to get a chance to see what might be a very defensive struggle, which he'll like when they play there in Detroit on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I see Western Kentucky, though, taking this one.
And I guess I'm going to go these two teams are very evenly matched. I'm going to go with Central Michigan, again, home field advantage. It's not technically their home field, but when you have the crowd behind you, Central Michigan normally plays in a game once a year in Detroit's Ford Field every year. So I'm going to give the edge to Central here.
Okay, well, we'll agree to disagree on that one. The Military Bowl, presented by Northrop Grumman. Number 24, San Jose State versus Bowling Green. Bowling Green from Ohio, 8-4, 6-2 in the MAC, versus the WAC team, San Jose State, which is 10-2. You know, I like MAC schools in basketball, but in football, especially when you're going up against a team like San Jose State with a 10-2 record, I think this is just a team which is extremely strong. That's just going to, steamroll over Bowling Green.
Yeah, the MAC versus the WAC is something I've been interested in watching all year. The MAC and WAC have both had great years. Looking at this, I can't think of just like as a conference as a whole for this matchup as a result. San Jose State, high offense, 35 points per game, where Bowling Green allows less than 16. Another high offense versus great defense. And I think Bowling Green has the defense that they can keep can keep David Fales, the quarterback for San Jose. I think they can keep him in check, and I'm actually going to go Bowling Green and give the MAC the advantage in this one.
The Belk Bowl?
That is correct.
What is Belk?
I don't want to know.
We have Cincinnati 9-3, 5-2 in the Big East versus Duke 6-6 and 3-5 in the ACC. And if we didn't know better, we would think that this was March Madness. But looking at this, Duke has a pretty good football team. They finished, although they finished the 4 straight losses, they are in their first bowl appearance in 18 years. And you're taking a look at Cincinnati. Cincinnati has had a strong football tradition even after Kelly has left the program and has propelled Notre Dame to number 1. Cincinnati, even though the Big East is just sort of falling apart and is being patched together by Band-Aids and duct tape, I think Cincinnati is the stronger school and the stronger team in this one.
Yeah, I think you're right here. Duke is in a bit of a downfall. I mean, this is their first bowl appearance in 18 years. That's very good for them. And they're playing very close to home in Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. So that's going to help. But in those 4 straight losses down the stretch, they allowed just under 50 points per game. That's not a recipe for success. No matter how good or bad Cincinnati's Big East offense is, I don't see any way that they fall to Duke. I think Cincinnati wins. I'm going to say by 2 touchdowns.
I don't have to agree with that also. And here's the other thought pattern behind this as well. You take a look at the Cincinnati squad. Year after year after year, they've been in bowl after bowl after bowl. This is a seasoned squad. This is a squad that knows what to do to get things done. So, with that said, it's not going to be their first time at the dance. I see them with a 10-point victory.
Absolutely. Let's move forward to the Bridgepoint Education Holiday Bowl. Baylor, 7-5 out of the Big 12 versus the number 17 UCLA Bruins, who fell just short of making a BCS berth after losing in the Pac-12 championship game. Both these teams were streaky. Baylor did not start off well. They gave up 70 points to West Virginia, but then they won their last 3 games, including upsetting number 1 Kansas State. UCLA then lost their final 2 games, both to Stanford, after winning a bunch of games in a row, and they finished last year finishing 0-3 as well. So they're looking to avoid that. Couple of teams that can really put some points on the board, Greg. Which way is this going to go?
You know what? This really is an intriguing matchup, and it's just a shame that the name of the bowl has to be so wonky.
Again, it used to be just the Holiday Bowl. Now we're going to put in Bridgepoint Education in front of it.
You know, and God bless the people of Bridgeport, but what about people in the next town over? They might be a little jealous over this. But anyway, getting back to the name of the game, which is the game itself, I really think UCLA has a distinct advantage here. Even though they lost their final 2 games, they lost to, decent teams. UCLA, I think, has a stronger defense, and with that said, I think we're going to see UCLA edging out Baylor on this one.
Not so fast, my friend. Yes, I have to do one impression of Lee Corso here today. I'm going to say Baylor. That 70 points that were dropped on them by West Virginia, that I don't want to say it was a fluke, but their defense has come a long way since then. And the only other mobile quarterback that they played this year, Colin Klein, they shut him down completely. UCLA's freshman quarterback, I think, is going to have some trouble. They're going to have to rely too much on Jonathan Franklin, and I think as a result, Baylor is going to put too many points on the board against UCLA that they won't be able to catch up. I'll go with the Bears over the Bruins.
Okay, the Advocare V100 Independence Bowl. We have Ohio, the Bobcats, 8-4, 4-4 in the MAC versus Louisiana Monroe, 8-4, 6-2 in the Sun Belt. Now, this is Ohio team I know a little bit about because I spent some time down in that section of the state. And the Ohio Bobcats, this is a plucky crew out there in the MAC, and I see them. Their defense is very tenacious. I see this team edging out Louisiana Monroe in this particular game.
I'm very confused about Ohio. They started out the year so strong. Tyler Tettleton looked so great. They started 7-0, including beating Penn State in Happy Valley. But they've ended the year on a down note. They're 1-4 in their last 5 games. The offense has gone dry. The defense has not been able to stop anybody. Louisiana Monroe, they beat number 8 Arkansas and then lost their next 2 games to Auburn and Baylor by a combined 8 points. When you combine that with the fact that they're going to be playing their game in Shreveport, Louisiana, again, the home field advantage against a struggling, streaky team that's going downhill, I'm going to take Louisiana Monroe in this one.
Okay.
We have a lot of disagreements, and I think that's showing us right now that we have a lot of good possibilities coming out of these bowl games. I think anything can happen.
Right. I mean, and once again, I mean, these teams are paired up quite evenly, I think, for the most part here. So pretty much anything can go. Let's take a look at the Russell Athletic Bowl, where we have Rutgers, 9-3, 5-2 in the Big East, versus Virginia Tech, 6-6 and 4-4 in the ACC. Rutgers missed out on the BCS, but you know, as you've always said, that these people are always a threat in the bowl season, and no doubt about it, the Rutgers squad always puts up some good numbers. Now, this wasn't the Rutgers squad back when I was going to school. When I was at Pitt, Rutgers was the doormat of the Big East for many, many years, but this team has come a long way in those years. But Virginia Tech, that's no slouch of a team either. But I really think Rutgers is going to put the hammer on Virginia Tech here just by the make of their offense here.
Yeah, and you know, you see the odds makers are still not giving the respect to Rutgers in the Big East. A 9-3 team in the Big East is the underdog by 3 points to a 6-6 Virginia Tech team. Rutgers has not lost a bowl game since 2005. That's 7 straight bowl wins. And the thing for the Hokies, if they're going to win, it's all going to be about their quarterback Logan Thomas. When he threw multiple interceptions in a game, they were 0-5. They were 6-1 in the rest of the game. So it's all going to be about Thomas. I think Rutgers' defense is going to cause enough trouble for him that I think he will throw a few interceptions and Rutgers will take the win.
Yeah, I think we both agree on Rutgers on this one.
All right, here's another fun name for you, Greg. The Meineke Car Care Bowl of Texas. 6-6 Minnesota out of the Big Ten. Texas Tech, 7-5 from the Big 12. So a Big 10, Big 12 matchup is a fun one to watch. Texas Tech, again, close to home. They're playing at Reliant Stadium in Houston, but they're going to be with an interim head coach. So, you never know what can happen there. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. Texas Tech has always had a poor defense, but it's a lot better this year. 114th ranking last year, 39th this year. And just because of that, the fact that they have a defense, I think that they win over Minnesota and they win big.
You know, there's a lot to be said about that. However, I still look at the Big Ten as a stronger conference. I think Minnesota is going to be a bit more seasoned and I believe a bit more poised. So I'm going to go with Minnesota on this one.
Oh, Minnesota is actually a 2-touchdown underdog. So if you're putting money down on that one, I think they can cover the spread. I think that is very possible, but winning might be a little bit out of their control. But hey, we've done it before. We're going to agree to disagree.
The next bowl we're going to talk about is the Bell Helicopter Armed Forces Bowl, where we have Rice, 6-6 overall, 4-4 Conference USA, versus Air Force, 6-6 overall, 5-3 in the Mountain West Conference. 2 evenly matched teams going into the Bell Helicopter Armed Services Bowl.
Yeah, if you like the old-fashioned running game, this is the game you want to watch. The Owls rank 31st in the country, just over 200 yards on the ground per game. Their main force, their quarterback's dual threat, 11 passing touchdowns, 11 rushing touchdowns. Air Force, I'll tell you what, if you want to talk about running, just look no further than the Air Force. When they played Hawaii this year, they ran the ball 68 times. They passed it 0 times.
That's amazing. It's almost like an oxymoron when you really think about Air Force having a strong running game. But with that said, when you run the ball 68 times for 338 yards, come on. That's incredible.
And they've done it all year. They're second in the country. They average 328 rushing yards per game. I think that they have a good matchup here when they play Rice. I think that they'll be able to run that option offense. They'll be able to run it well, and I think Air Force wins, and they control the clock the whole game.
Yeah, that's definitely a clock control game. Probably a pretty boring game to watch, especially. I see this game as probably a 21-17 victory for Air Force, but it's going to be ground and pound the entire time.
And some people like that. I personally love the Army-Navy game every year, watching that ground and pound. I think this is going to be another form of that, so I'm looking forward to this one.
Okay. We have a couple of former Big East teams here squaring off in the New Era Pinstripe Bowl. There you have West Virginia 7-5, 4-5 in the Big 12 versus Syracuse 7-5 and 5-2 in the Big East. West Virginia... really, this was a team that was slated to go far and had some unfortunate losses. Very strong quarterback right now with West Virginia, and I really see West Virginia, I think, dominating this game here against Syracuse. What are your thoughts on this, Dotson?
Well, they started off, they were 5-0, and they ended up losing their next 5 after that. But even with all the hardships that their defense had, their offense is top 10 in nearly every statistical category. However, don't sleep on those Orange, because the Mountaineers did last year, and they lost in a big game when they were ranked in the top 10. Syracuse upset them then. I think they do the same thing here, because Syracuse's offense is very underrated. They are the best in the Big East. West Virginia has probably the worst defense in the country. I'm going to take Syracuse in a shocker, beating them. I'm going to say with a last-minute field goal, they win.
I see this as a shootout, though, and remember this, West Virginia's quarterback is slated to be one of the top quarterbacks drafted in the NFL draft next year.
Yeah, Geno Smith is something to behold, and it's going to be tough to stop him, but it's not very tough to score with him, believe it or not.
Let's move along here. We have the Kraft Fight Hunger Bowl, where we have Navy 8-4 against Arizona State 7-5 and 5-4 in the Pac-12. Dotson, I know you are just savoring at this because you're fighting hunger. I understand. But what do you think about this game?
You're right. This matchup has me licking my lips with hunger, and it's because you got Navy running that triple option offense that I absolutely love. I love it. I love it. I love it. I can't say it enough. Just where 5 different people could be carrying the ball at any play, and facing our friend Alex, his favorite spread offense for Arizona State with head coach Todd Graham. This is just going to be a fun matchup to see going back and forth with Navy running the ball the whole time, versus Arizona State having to go up and down, trying to snap it within 10 seconds. I think Navy has the ball 60 minutes of the game. I bet you they have it for 45 minutes of time of possession, and I think that is the reason why Navy wins this matchup. They are 14-point underdogs, but no one takes into consideration how effective the option offense can be against a defense that isn't used to it. I'm going to say Navy definitely keeps it within the spread, but I'm actually going to give them the win as well.
You know what? I have to agree with you on this one. I've seen the way Todd Graham coaches when he was at Pitt, and the Arizona State Sun Devils are a similar type of team, the way they play, the way Pitt used to play. And I'm looking at Navy. I love the triple option. I love the triple option when Coach Fox used that with Tim Tebow out in Denver. Nobody quite knows how to defend that. And Navy does it like nobody else. I'm with you on this one. Navy all.
And even more, they're getting a bit of a passing game into that option offense, which they haven't had in years, almost since the Roger Staubach days. So even more reason I like the Naval Academy to take control in this game.
It's a very dynamic Navy team, unlike years gone by.
Exactly. Navy is relevant. Armed forces in general are becoming more relevant in some of these games. And I think that's great for college football as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Move forward, the Valero Alamo Bowl. A couple ranked teams here. The number 23 Texas Longhorns out of the Big 12 facing number 13 Oregon State from the Pac-12. Both of these teams with streaky seasons. Texas won 4 games in a row, then they lost a few. Won 4 in a row, and then they've lost their last 2. Oregon State starts 6-0, but they haven't won back-to-back games since. So how do you predict what team is going to show up in this sort of game?
You really can't. This is a very difficult one to actually kind of get a pulse on. I mean, defenses, I think, are going to be a bit stretched on both sides because you have 2 potent offenses. I actually see Oregon State beating Texas by a score of 42 to 35.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely going to be a high-scoring game, and uncertainty of who will be the Texas quarterback, whether injury is going to be of a concern, whether we'll have the starters back. But even if not, we could have Colt McCoy's younger brother throwing it to Jordan Shipley's younger brother, another McCoy to Shipley combination down there in Texas. It's worked well when they've been in there so far. Whether it is Shipley or Ash in there, I think that Texas will have just enough to hold on Oregon State, but it's going to be a back-and-forth battle the whole game, one that's going to be fun to watch if you like high-scoring games.
Yeah. It's almost going to be like watching a CFL game.
Exactly. Now, if you prefer those CFL games, stick to the Alamo Bowl. Stay away from the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl. Texas Christian, TCU, 7-5, 4-5 in the Big 12 versus Michigan State, the defensive powerhouse of the Big 10 at 6-6. I don't even know what to say. I mean, TCU is number 18 in total defense. Michigan State is number 4 in total defense. They both had a chance at the BCS, but their offenses just are garbage. So you have 2 bad offenses playing 2 great defenses. We might have like a repeat of the Pitt game a couple years ago when they lost in a bowl game 3-0.
Yeah, I see something quite like this, although I think Michigan State can pull this one off. But once again, it's going to be a low-scoring affair.
Yeah, I think it's going to be about their running back, Le'Veon Bell, breaking one in the end. That's about the only difference maker I can see in this game, and I'll give that little edge to Michigan State as a result.
Next bowl that we're going to talk about is the Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl, where you have North Carolina State, 7-5, 4-4 in the ACC against Vanderbilt, 8-4, 5-3 in the Southeast Conference. Where do you look at these guys?
Well, right at first glance, I was looking NC State because normally the lower-end SEC teams aren't as strong, but then I looked more at what Vanderbilt did this year, and they actually impressed me. The quarterback, senior quarterback, Jordan Rodgers, and yes, another relation to an NFL guy. He is the younger brother of Super Bowl MVP Aaron Rodgers. He has brought the Commodores ranked, not only are they a very strong team on offense, but they're also ranked in the top 20 in total defense. And their 3 conference losses come to pretty strong teams, Georgia, Florida, and South Carolina. So because of that, I'm going to put the edge to Vanderbilt, and I'm going to give them a touchdown win. I can't believe I'm picking the SEC, but there you go.
Really, I mean, you waged a war against the SEC for so long, but I would have to say you're correct on this one. It's a very good assessment, only because you have a good quarterback. They've been putting some points up, and they've beaten some very highly ranked teams. Yes, I would agree with you on this one, Vanderbilt.
My only worry on that game is how well that defense will play against a pure passer in Mike Glennon. Now, I mean, most of the SEC quarterbacks aren't such pure passing machines like he is. So with his team ranked in the top 20 in passing offense, it scares me a bit, but I think that the SEC defense in them will be just fine.
Mm-hmm. Swimming on along here to the Hyundai Sun Bowl, where you have USC, I think, coming on their first bowl appearance after an exile for quite a while, 7-5 and 5-4 in the Pac-12 versus Georgia Tech, 6-7 and 5-3 in the ACC. With this one, I see USC pulling this one off.
Yeah, you're right. This is their first bowl game since the suspension, but they were expecting a much better bowl appearance than this. They were hoping for at least New Year's Day, and hopefully they were hoping for a BCS bowl, maybe even the championship. But this is going to be Matt Barkley's last chance to prove himself as NFL worthy. He didn't have a great regular season, so he needs a big game here. Georgia Tech, since Paul Johnson has gone there as the coach, they have not won a bowl game. So the question is, can they pull it off with their triple option attack? And I'm going to have to say they'll keep it close, but I got to give it to the Trojans as well. I think Barkley's going to be too much to handle.
I would have to agree with you on that, although I'm not real keen on USC quarterbacks after taking a look at, the past flops that have come out of there. I do see USC as a team as a much stronger team and a much more, I hate to say the word disciplined with USC, but a more disciplined approach to this game. I think USC is going to take this one.
Good deal. All right, we have the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, where we have 6-6 Iowa State out of the Big 12 versus 10-3 Tulsa out of the Conference USA, the champions out of Conference USA. This is where the bowls get a little odd. You have a top team from a mid-major conference facing a bottom dweller, literally finishing 9th out of 10 teams in the Big 12 was Iowa State. So do you go with the big the big name or the bigger name Iowa State, who finished low in the conference, or Tulsa, who finishes at the top of their supposedly weaker conference? And the odds makers are no help. They say it's a pick'em. So who do you pick, Greg?
Well, anybody that can win a conference, no matter how strong or how weak, is doing something correctly. That said, you have a team that's 10-3 and 7-1 in Conference USA. Tulsa's going to take this one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree. They have the better, more efficient offense, and they're the ones that are on the hot streak. Iowa State's lost 5 of their last 7. Tulsa's won 3 out of their last 4. That in and of itself is going to give me a little bit of an edge to Tulsa at this point.
Wrapping up our minor bowls before we go to our next podcast, which is going to be the BCS bowls, we have the Chick-fil-A Bowl, where we have number 8, LSU, 10-2 and 6-2 in the Southeast Conference, versus number 14, Clemson, 10-2 and 7-1 in the ACC. This is probably the most significant matchup besides any of the BCS bowls that are out there. It's going to be a fun one to watch, especially with Clemson's high-powered, high-octane offense led by quarterback Taj Boyd. What do you think about this one, Dotson?
Oh, there's no doubt this is the biggest matchup of any of the pre-New Year's bowls, and it's the perfect way to end it right before the ball drops with number 8 versus number 14. Honestly, both of these teams feel like they deserve a BCS spot, and they just couldn't quite get it. So here's the question. Is it Taj Boyd and the high-powered offense, or Les Miles' amazing LSU defense? And that defense shut down Heisman Trophy winner Johnny Manziel, who is very similar in style, a good passer, but who has great legs under him as well. So can they do the same thing against Taj Boyd, who could be in and of himself a Heisman candidate? So I guess the question is, which Tigers do you think will be the king of the juggle? I'm going to go with, I got to go LSU. There's too much doubt in the ACC for me to give that pick. I'm going to go with the LSU Tigers over the Clemson Tigers.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think the Clemson Tigers are the better Tiger. So only because of that high-powered offense, and only because they're going against the SEC.
Yeah, and again, this is the second time I've had to go with an SEC pick here, but I mean, my thought of it is that the ACC just has not looked great. When they played out of conference, there has not been very impressive, and I'd still pick Clemson against pretty much any other SEC team, except for the fact LSU absolutely took out a very similar quarterback without too much difficulty. So because of that, I'm going to give them the edge, and Les Miles with that much planning time. They'll have a great game plan for Taj Boyd, and he won't look superhuman like he has before.
There you go. Well, that just about does us here for this particular cast. Happy viewing of these minor bowls, the hors d'oeuvres for the BCS. If you're a corporation that wants to sponsor one of these bowls, please try to keep it simple, so we don't have mortgage and music and city all in the same breath.
Yeah, well, even when we get after New Year's, it doesn't get much better. I mean, we got couple websites, taxslayer.com Gator Bowl, the GoDaddy.com Bowl. We'll talk about all those in our next podcast and then wrap it all up with your BCS preview and wrap it up there with Alabama number 2 versus number 1 Notre Dame. We got all your predictions, your previews coming for you, and we'll find out at the end which one of us has the best record. And Greg, we got lots of differences, so it's going to be an interesting bowl season, to say the least.
It's going to be a fun one, no doubt about it. And be sure to check and see who the king of the hill is of the college bowl games by checking out the Laversons, Dodsons, and the Mad Scientist picks. On that note, happy holidays to you, and we'll all